The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to take a call on this bill, and despite the sort of colourful approach of the other member, I would state for the record that Labor will support this bill. But we do have some reservations about it, and that's why this is called a sort of democratic parliament. We're charged with actually raising some issues. And the point is this, and I think Mr. Parker, who's a lawyer, had a word to me before and made a very interesting point. Does the government really think that for the last 150 years, when a police officer or a prison officer has been brutally attacked, as with other analogous cases, I think where an adult, as we've seen recently, actually tortures or imposes himself on a young child, that is an aggravating factor, that judges for the last 150 years haven't taken that into account as an aggravating factor? Of course they have. And the point I make here, and I know Simon Power, I think a pretty good member of this House, he's not here now, he's in the hallowed halls of Westpac, will be, because the bill is in his name, sir, actually, he will be kissing the ground that people walk on up in Auckland or wherever he is, saying thank God he doesn't have to come down and front another tinkering fictitious bill. Because everybody in this House, before they the squawk boxes start, everybody on this side of the House, I think everybody in this chamber agrees that where a police officer or prison officer who put their lives on the line is attacked, that of course that should be dealt with by the judiciary, and of course it should be an aggravating factor, and it is. But this is a Judith Collins special, another one, because Simon Power isn't here. This is another, the huge detail in this bill, we're talking sort of 3.5, maybe if we can get there 3 3/4 pages, which again sounds tough, but actually will do nothing. Because the history of course, of police officers and prison officers who are assaulted, when those cases are dealt with in the courts, is that judges do take account as an aggravating factor. In fact, this bill is so light that it says a judge must take account of it as an aggravating factor, but then it doesn't go on to compel a judge to do anything. Not a thing. It just says, Judge, you must acknowledge mentally or however that this is an aggravating factor, and then it's over to you, which is exactly what a judge does in the present-day judicial system. They sit there, they look at the aggravating factors, and they sentence accordingly. This bill says, Judge, you must sit there and you must say to yourself, this is an aggravating factor, and then you can sentence accordingly. What does it change, apart from another little political pamphlet where Ms Collins can stand up and say, I'm being tough and I'm standing beside our police and our prison officers? Well, she didn't do that a few years ago when one of the prison officers got attacked, had their bones broken, and she got up in this House and said they were minor injuries. So this is the sort of, it is true, and it's in Hansard. And this is the sort of lightweight political pamphlet stuff we got from the last government, we get from this, that are angry, she says, angry. Well, I'll tell you the people who may well be angry tonight, and they are the people, the men and women in the police force, as she chirps away because she doesn't take these issues seriously. The men and women in the police force who actually, as prosecutors and others, stand up in the courts and know, Greg O'Connor and others, how their men and women are dealt with by the judiciary. They know this is piffle. This is a political pamphlet. Everybody supports the judiciary ensuring that there's an aggravating factor when a police or prison officer is attacked. You don't actually need this. The judiciary do it anyway. But Judith Collins can get up and say, I've been tough again. Bit like, remember the old boy racer thing? We had 100 out the other night. When Judith Collins said, I'm going to go and crush them, none have been crushed. And she said, I'm going to say that it is mandatory that, I'm going to make sure that the judges deal with these silly boys and girls. Then she didn't make anything mandatory on a judge. She didn't say a judge had to crush a car. No, you didn't, sir. So, there was 100 of them a couple of days ago in the paper, or is she blind? So let's get past all the sort of piffle and political politics. Simon Power will be sitting up there in private banking, which I'm told is sort of professional shopping for the rich or something like that. He'll be sitting up there saying, thank God I got out. Thank God the Cabinet, thank God the Prime Minister didn't force another bill that I had to hand over to Judith Collins because I knew it was wrong. I didn't want to represent it as a justice bill. Thank God I don't have to stand up and humiliate myself and front this sort of piffle. Anybody who stands up in this House, and the next government speakers will, I'm sure, and accuse the Labor Party, or New Zealand First, or the Greens, or anybody else in this House of not standing beside and with our police force, not standing beside and with our prison officers. Shame on them. Because of the test and commitment and loyalty to our police force, to our prison staff, who put in many cases, especially our police, their lives on the line, is to support political pamphlets and piffle like this. If that's the benchmark, then I'm sorry, that doesn't wash with the public. For 150 years, where police and prison officers have been done over or killed or grievously injured, and the accused has gone before a court, does anybody on that side believe that a judge has gone, no, that's not an aggravating factor? In the same way, does anybody on that side believe that if an adult does over, kills, injures, imposes themselves on a young child, as we've seen in recent days, and keep interjecting, it says more about that member than anybody else, does anybody believe that a judge, does that member believe, yes or no, that a judge would not take into account an aggravating factor of an adult doing over or worse a child? Well, of course that judge will always take that in as an aggravating factor. Why? Because they would be negligent in their duty, sir, and I don't speak of them directly. They would be negligent in their duty, and I suspect they would be removed by higher authority, namely this House. So this is just another Judith Collins U-Butte special. Stand up, stomp your feet, say you're being tough with a bill that's sort of akin to half a sort of fish and chip paper that actually will change and do nothing, will not actually provide any added protection to our prison office, to our police. What Ms Collins would have been better to do when she was Corrections and Police Minister was not cut the police vote as she did, and actually stand up in the House when prison officers were done over, when they did have their bones broken, as we know happened, and instead of saying they were minor injuries and belittling them, actually getting off a backside and standing behind them and doing something about it and supporting them. And not treating the Corrections Association as she did like dirt, and other people that were representing members, the PSA and others, members, prison officers who do a hell of a job, an awful job that I could not do, I suspect. I suspect that member couldn't do. They should tell everybody she could. Although I suspect if she did take up a prison officer's career, she probably would scare the hell out of a few of them in solitary confinement up a perimeter. So this is not a bill of substance. This is not a great law reform. Yes, we will support it, but let's be honest about what it is. This is not the benchmark and the acid test to support the test whether we support our police, whether we support prison officers. This is about the government, as usual, talking tough, acting tough, but producing absolutely nothing. And that is changing a couple of words in an act. And do you think the judiciary are going to be poring over this piece of legislation, over every fine word, sir, changing their behaviour? No, because they don't have to change their behaviour, because they do this anyway, and they've done it for 150 years, sir. So I say, let's be honest for once. Let's say what this is. Let's stand by our police. Let's stand by our prison officers. And if they continue, sir, to play this pathetic political game of saying if you're not fully supportive of this rubbish, then you're selling out the police and the prison and our prison service, then I believe the public are better than that, are far brighter than that, and they will continue to see through that sort of political piffle, sir.
Call Simon Bridges.
Mr. Speaker, happy